What's good, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of the first impressions of this college basketball season. If you missed part 1, definitely go and check that out. We talked about more of the more prominent players and teams and events that have happened in college basketball so far, but one thing we did not get to in that video is the Gonzaga versus Michigan State matchup that was played on the aircraft carrier. Now, me personally playing in that, I would not be a fan of. Playing a game that things actually counting where you're affected by the wind and the sun is probably not the greatest thing for your shot and everything like that, but from a viewer's perspective, it is fun. But getting into that Gonzaga Michigan State game, specifically, I thought Julian Strawther was solid, the best pro prospect in that game. I thought he could have been a little bit more aggressive in that second half, but he was looking the part as a pro wing. Thought he did some really nice things off the dribble, attacking the basket too, even though some of those calls didn't go in his favor. Drew Timme, of course, took over the game in the second half. He's one of the best players in college basketball. NBA future is a little bit different with him, obviously. You know, there's some certain things that he just does not have, but at the same time, I think he's definitely going to get an opportunity at some point. Definitely should be a Summer League fan favorite next year. I think Nolan Hickman has had a solid start to sort of the successor to Andrew Nembhard, and we'll see kind of where his game goes throughout the year. And then on the Michigan State side, you've got guys like Jaden Akins, who I think will turn it up once he fully recovers from the foot injury. You've got AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker, who I think are interesting too. But yeah, it was a fun matchup. It was a really nice game, a good game, something that kind of made you feel like college basketball was actually back. You know, there's been a lot of bye games throughout the week before that one, so that was kind of a good one to get everything kicked off. But now getting into some other teams and prospects, I want to start with Indiana. I think that they've been really interesting to start the year. Starting with Jalen Hood-Schifino, he hasn't had quite the scoring success that he did in the exhibitions, but he's still been a high-level talent and one to watch for me. I really like his pace and how he makes plays for others at that size without being ball dominant. And to me, he's a first-round type of talent at this point of the year. And then you've got Malik Reneau, who is an underrated freshman in his own right on this squad as well. I'm not 100% sure about one and done with him just yet. I think we'll find out over the next couple weeks. But he's a super intriguing lefty forward who can do a lot well. He's already really good, and it's kind of made this Indiana team way scarier than I actually thought that they would be in the beginning. And you obviously have Trace Jackson Davis still there. Guys like Scoot Bates, CJ Gunn off the bench, a few others. So this Indiana team is pretty interesting. And for a Big Ten squad, they've got some real legit NBA prospects that aren't big, so should be interesting to watch them throughout the year. I think Illinois has pretty clearly shown just early on, and they were this way on paper too, but just in the first couple games, that they are going to be a force both in the Big Ten and nationally in the tournament as well. They're led by Terrence Shannon Jr. now. You guys have probably been familiar with him playing at Texas Tech the last couple years. He's still got potential to break through as that lefty wing, especially if he can shoot it with any consistency. You've got Coleman Hawkins, who has had some really nice performances to start the year, and he really might be putting it all together this year. Another one of those sort of versatile four men. You've also got Sky Clark on this team, Jaden Epps, Sincere Harris, Matthew Meyer, RJ Melendez, Ty Rogers, Dane Danger as well, who's really started the year off, hot. I think there's a lot of talent here, and without a guy like Kofi Coburn, who they had been kind of force-feeding the last several years, I think at least play style wise, it'll benefit them to go deeper in the tournament. So definitely got to keep your eyes on Illinois and some of their prospects and everything this year. North Carolina is coming off of that runner-up title run. Despite not having the three ball go down, Caleb Love has been excellent, navigating the pick and roll, getting to the bucket, finding his teammates for open looks, and he looks extra bouncy to start this year as well. I'm excited to watch him. I think if he can put it all together, he has first round guard potential still in there, and we can talk about him kind of shoring up his decision making and certain things he needs to do on the defensive end as well. But like, he's still super talented, and he was one of those guys coming out of high school for a reason. I think he can kind of reclaim some of that, especially if he's consistent down the stretch of this season. But you've also got Armando Bacot on this team, Pete Nance, RJ Davis, Leaky Black. I think Seth Trimble is an interesting young guy off that bench as well. There was that whole kind of unwritten rule thing about him dunking at the end of the game. I get it. I also think that we kind of make too much of certain things from like a coach's perspective, or feeling disrespected by that. as another team. I feel like there's some of the things that we kind of need to like grow out of at some point, especially in college basketball. But yeah, that was just a random point that I had on my mind from Caleb Love in this UNC team. But we can go out west to UCLA real quick. I've been impressed most by Jalen Clark to start the season. Now, he hasn't had the biggest of impact to start his career in UCLA, but right now he's looked like the guy. Played some really high level defense. He has 7 steals in one of his games. He's been setting up his teammates well. Just playing good basketball across the board. I haven't really taken him particularly serious in terms of like pro potential, but if he continues playing like this, like, it's gonna have to be something that's kind of on your mind. Amari Bailey, I don't have too many takeaways from early on in the season. I think he's done some solid things in the pick and roll as a scorer, a couple of pull-ups that I really liked, and the way that he's navigated to the rim. I really just want to see how he works in the flow of their offense and some of his decision making throughout the year, and just what he can bring to the table when he's not scoring or when he's not the focal point of the offense at all times. And then Adem Bona, he had the weird eligibility thing with the NCAA kind of keeping him out of the first game, but he looked solid in game 2. You've got Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell on this team as well. They should be pretty good, especially in the Pac-12. Prospect wise, it's going to be interesting to kind of watch throughout the year. Now, one team that I really like so far is this Florida team. Prospect wise, you've got Alex Fudge and Will Richard, who are leading the charge. I think Alex Fudge has been great for them off the bench to start. Definitely their best pro prospect in my opinion. He's a 6'8" wing with high-level defensive abilities. He's knocked down 2 threes. Luke Miles more comfortable this year on offense so far from what we saw from him as a freshman at LSU. I think he's got definite top 40 potential. And then you've got Will Richard transferring from Belmont. He's potentially been their best player to start the year. Love the energy that he brings defensively. He just kind of allowed the game to come to him on offense, and I'm interested to see what he does and how he looks in the SEC going up against guys like Nick Smith and the Cason Wallaces and guys of that nature. So that should be a good test, and I'll be really excited to watch those. And then you've got a guy like Riley Kugel, I think is interesting long term, and then Colin Castleton has been a really nice college player for the last 2 or 3 years. So those are my big takeaways from Florida. Now we can get into more of the individual prospects. I think Mike Miles has been off to a really nice start. They almost lost to Pine Bluff in the first game, but they bounced back against Lamar. He had 26, 5 and 5. I've been talking about those guys kind of putting it all together. He's another one of them that I think we could see it happen for this year. And in that group of the small guards, the Tyrese Hunters, the Marcus Sassers, he might be my favorite to watch. I think I would probably say that confidently. And he should be one of the best players in the country this year, kind of vaulting himself into real draft consideration. Notre Dame freshman JJ Starling was solid in his debut. There was a lot of good flashes. He only had 9 points, but there was a lot of encouraging stuff in there. And as I'm recording this, I just saw that he had 17 against Youngstown State and 8 in like the last 90 seconds or so. Shout out to League him. I just saw the post on IG before I turned the camera on, but I have to go watch that one. JJ Starling definitely looks like a guy who should make major NBA draft noise. And if you remember, even Blake Wesley, I think he had like 21 in his first game, and then the next 2 he had like 4 or 5, and he just kind of looked like a different player. And then he kind of turned it on, started getting the 15s, 14s consistently. But it's a pretty good start for JJ Starling, and hopefully he can kind of get on that same path, because they're going to need it from him on a nightly basis. Now, Eric Gaines is a guy who's kind of had some first round, real draft buzz coming into the season. Another guy who transferred out of LSU, but it hasn't been a very good start for him, especially offensively as a shooter. And, some of the decision making has been a little bit off. In my opinion, I think he's going to find a rhythm here soon. Hopefully, still an unbelievable athlete and a defender. His teammate, Jordan Walker, has been unbelievable as a scorer. But yeah, they should be good. They should probably figure it out here the next 5 games or so. So I'm not too worried. We'll see kind of just how they get into the flow of things, and it should work itself out over time. Chris Murray, it's really early, but he's looking like Keegan Light so far. Just playing super efficient basketball in around 20 minutes a night, affecting the game in multiple ways, making drives with that left hand, knocking down threes, playing some solid defense, making plays, off the ball on that end as well. I'd be surprised if he looks anything like Keegan. I mean, he looks just like Keegan. But if he does anything like performance-wise like Keegan, getting to the lottery. But, if he continues to play like this and takes on that leadership role and and shows that he has a little bit more to his game than he showed in the past, then it's going to show on draft night and throughout the year with his stock as well. A few more people. I've been somewhat disappointed by Harrison Ingram super early in the season. He hasn't been really hitting shots, hasn't really, taken a ton of them, been very aggressive at all. I'll forgive him for one of them because it was in a baseball stadium, but I haven't really felt his presence all the way on either end. I think he's done some solid things on both ends of the floor, but nothing that's like really jumped out at me, especially for a guy who has like first round type of buzz coming into the season. Julian Phillips has had kind of a freshman-like start to his year. He's had some moments, and I definitely still think he could be a one-and-done guy, but it hasn't shown itself fully. And Tennessee as a whole just does not look like a top 12 team at all. They just lost to Colorado today. I'll mostly be watching them for what Phillips can do. Another freshman who I really like, and I got to see at Sunrise last year, is Bobby Klintman. He's a guy who could probably be a multi-year prospect, but as a 6'10 forward, he's knocked down some threes, made some plays defensively, all in sort of limited minutes. Now, he did foul out against Georgia in like 11 minutes. It was extremely quick. There's a lot to like with him, and like we mentioned before, I think on the big board, just kind of taking over for what Jake LaRavia did in the past, and maybe that's next year for him to like really take that role on. He has the potential to do a lot of those same things in the way that LaRavia did. I think Tucker DeVries out of Drake gotten off to a good start coming back from his injury. He had 22 and 25 minutes in the opener. He looks ready to just kind of take on those next steps as a 6'7 wing with really good feel and a knockdown shot. I'm not 100% sure what the board will look like in the next several weeks, but I have a feeling that he will find his name on there. Marquez Oso-Ighodaro is super intriguing as a 6'9 forward who can put it on the floor a little bit, really create for others and finish at the bucket. I definitely will enjoy watching what he does as a playmaker, among other things, because they do run their offense through him a lot of the time. And, if he's knocking down shots, we get into a really interesting conversation with him in terms of league potential. One guy who is sort of an underrated or under the radar one and done guy is Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State. He's shown himself to be one of the more unique players and potential prospects out there. Just like this big guard at 6'6", 240, really agile. He's strong, can create for himself really well, knock down a jumper. I think we're going to be able to kind of tell over these next weeks and months whether or not he can be that guy at the moment, and just kind of getting a better feel for his game, because I haven't seen a ton of him in the past, but he's definitely caught my eye. Adama Sanogo could be a real breakout guy based on what we've seen so far. He's averaging 23 and 11 right now. The big thing with him, though, is he's shooting threes. He's taken 3 threes this year already, made 2 of them. For somebody, it's not like crazy. Obviously, in 2 games, he's taken 3 threes. He's never really attempted them in the past. If he's really shooting that shot and it looks good, we start opening up something that maybe wasn't there. Got to keep him high on your watch list. And, Jordan Hawkins, his teammate, unfortunately got a concussion, but I'm still interested in what he does once he hopefully makes a speedy recovery and gets back on the floor. But yeah, that's mostly what I've got for college. Yuri Collins has 27 dimes to start this season. His teammate Javonte Perkins at St. Louis, they're making some noise over there. I think Roddy Gale from Ohio State is interesting as well. But yeah, those are some of the guys who have kind of caught my eye this college season. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've seen from the Ignite so far this season. They're obviously headlined by Scoot Henderson, who I believe will be the number 2 guy for the entirety of the year. I think he's one of the more complete point guard prospects. It's easy to kind of get used to what he's doing and how he's performing. He's still 18 years old doing things like this in the G League, making it look super easy in a way that it just should not for someone that age. His first half last night, which was against the Santa Cruz Warriors, was one of the worst halves I've seen from him. He was 1 for 8. He had 5 turnovers. Second half, he was like 8 for 11, led the comeback in a big way, making plays all over the court. He had 16 dimes in that game as well. Like he was unbelievable in that second half, especially. So props to him. He's really that guy. Definitely expect a first look video on him in the next couple weeks. That'll be coming very soon. I think the next guy I've been most impressed by is Mojave King. Mojave King has looked the part in a big way. His jumper looks excellent. He hit 7 threes last night. He really competes defensively. He's strong. I like what he does on that end of the floor too. He just looks like a really good complementary piece as a 3-and-D guy. He's a little bit older than the other guys in the Ignite program, but I do think that he makes a lot of sense as that complimentary guy. Yeah, I've been really impressed by him. I think CD Sissoko has been impressive lately. You know, I was kind of curious of what he is and what he's going to do, but he's kind of answered some of those questions. The shot looks really good. Actually looks improved from that exhibition and those exhibitions where he wasn't the greatest. I like what he brings to the table defensively. You know, he's a good playmaker. He had this one pass in transition. You know, he kind of fitted through guys, you know, kind of running down the floor. That was really impressive. I'm a lot more confident in his game and what he brings to the table. Leonard Miller did not play against the Warriors, but he's looked good in what he's shown. I definitely want to see what he looks like more towards the end of the season, but they seem like they're kind of defining roles a little bit better. Obviously, somebody who's 6'10", 6'11", and can move like he can, make plays, and bend multiple positions in the way that he can is going to have a lot of intrigue and interest. I can't forget Efe Abogidi. I don't know 100%, but he looks like a first round type of big at the moment. High energy, both ends, really good athlete, hitting that mid-range jumper in a big way. I like what he brings to the table. And yeah, overall, this might be the most complete Ignite team. I feel like these guys, both from the veterans perspective and just the young guys, how they complement each other. I'm curious to see where they all end up in the draft. And then when we look back at the Jalen Green, Kuminga, Daishen Nix, Isaiah Todd group, and into the Jaden Hardy group and Marjon Beauchamp to this one, I don't know. I feel like it has a good chance to be like the most complete and have the most complete kind of contributors throughout the league for, you know, the next 10-15 years. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this part 2 of the sort of first impressions of both college basketball and also with the Ignite. Like I mentioned with Scoot, there is another first look type of video. I'm going to kick those off later this week with who else other than the alien. He's been playing in FIBA lately. That's definitely coming this week. Also stay tuned for something else special towards the end of this week, and definitely be sure to follow me on Twitter if you aren't already. But yeah, that's all I've got for this one. I appreciate y'all for watching. As always, I'm Keandre. This is Hoop Intellect. Till next time, I'm out.
They don't really love you like they say they do. Yeah. For your spirit and your energy, they using you. Got my own friends.